Hey guys, what's up? My name is Karis. Welcome to Fix Your Shitty Movement. This is part 2 of the series of breathing and bracing. Part 1 was largely about breathing, though we did get into a bunch of other shit. I would highly recommend that you check that out, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of stuff here because otherwise we'll never get fucking anything done. That was a couple weeks back, and then there was Halloween, so I had to dress like an asshole and do some stuff like that. But I will say that the Angel Devil Fix Your Shitty Movement wasn't just a gimmick. There's a lot of really good information about the core and how to access it, although I did say that it was largely aesthetic. A lot of those concepts and a lot of those movements are going to be really important in bracing. So let's get right to it. What is bracing? Well, it is basically flexing the muscles in your torso to hold your torso still. And it's protective. It's your body trying to protect your central nervous system, your spine. So bracing is a very natural thing that happens, right? If you went to punch me in the stomach, I would brace in anticipation for it, right? Protectively. In most team sports, it's something that your body just does, right? So they don't have to do this whole crazy setup that deadlifters or whatever do. So if it's natural, then why do deadlifters have to do that shit? And why do you have to learn to do that shit? Much like breathing, it's the things that we do automatically that we suck at the most. The thing about powerlifting in particular, all strength sports, but especially powerlifting, is that you have to be able to create that tension and maximal tension, because it's not even as much as what you would have like on the football field or something. You have to create it out of thin air. So that's why you'll see powerlifters get slapped in the face and, smelling the ammonia salts and stuff, is because they're trying to be rigid as possible, while literally one or two joints or whatever, just a couple things move on your body, whether it's the bench press, right? The squat. Yeah, there's your hips, your knees, and your ankles participating in the squat, but the daddy is your lats, because what they're doing is they are holding the bar up here so that your legs can do their thing. So if your lats, upper back, whatever, spoiler alert, it's a lot about the lats, are out to lunch, then it doesn't matter how strong your legs are, you're fucked. So powerlifting is really unique in that, right? Squat, bench, and deadlift. All three of those require you to be as stable as possible so that you can move the weight without dying, ideally. Strongman, a lot more of an athletic component, a lot more dynamic, right? There's the Atlas stone, which I've referenced quite a bit, and yet you have to flex your spine when you're doing it. And not only that, when you're putting it up on the thingy, I don't know enough about strongman, but I want to know more. There tends to be quite a bit of extension, right? So how come they don't get hurt when they do that stuff, or they don't tend to, whatever? Why can they flex and arch their back, and you're telling me that I shouldn't be doing that when I'm squatting? Because it's different. It's all about intention, right? And I said the same thing in breathing. I'm not saying that yoga breathing is wrong. I'm saying yoga breathing is wrong in powerlifting, right? And there's all sorts of different styles of breathing dependent on the goal. That's why the Instagram know-it-alls there's so many reasons they're fucking annoying. But one of the main reasons is that they just think very blanket, right? Extension and flexion aren't inherently bad for you. Not even lateral flexion, right? So the circus dumbbell or whatever press that strongman does, I think that's what it's called. That's lateral flexion, right? It shouldn't be dangerous because we're designed to laterally flex. It's intentionality. Olympic lifting, you better have some damn good extension if you're gonna do a snatch. And the movement, again, is way more dynamic. There's a lot more going on. You're not gonna slap an Olympic lifter in the face before they go into a snatch. There's just a little more focus that goes into it. Does that mean that powerlifters are dumb? Fuck no. It's such a, athleticism is just seen, again, very blanket, your ability to run and move fast and have a six-pack. No, it's all about intention. And powerlifting sucks. I'm a powerlifter, just FYI. And it's such a mind fuck because, again, you have to create that rigidity, that tension out of nowhere and hold as still as possible. Because if you let that bar go one direction too much, you're often fucked. You're either gonna finish it ugly or you won't be able to finish it. Best case scenario. as long as you have a spotter and all that shit. Anyway, same in strength sports, but what I'm trying to say is there's always different tiers within that. So shut the fuck up with your know-it-allness. Anyway, so bench press too, right? We have a big arch. Why is that not a problem then? Because our spine isn't loaded. Squat and deadlift, your spine is loaded. Intentionality, right? So, wow, I can go on for days about everything, right guys? Okay, so I said in the first video that a lot of people use breathing as bracing, or they are like interchangeable. That has a lot of problems. I called it the big bad wolf take a shit breath, right? That so many powerlifters do. And first of all, so many of them aren't even breathing with their diaphragm. They're actually opening their rib cage and basically letting all the intra-abdominal pressure out. And then they push this way, right? Basically pulling them more into this position. And you know, if you did that with your pants down on the toilet, you'd probably take a shit, or you'd blow out your asshole and then take a shit, whichever. Do you want to do that when you're deadlifting? No. You want that bracing to be 360 degrees around, and you need to learn how to do that. Also, breathing only accounts for about 20% of intra-abdominal pressure total. So if you're only trying to utilize even a good diaphragmatic breath to create bracing, you're not going to get very far. And remember, we also went over intercostal breathing, which is also going to play into this as well. There's so many fucking things to go over. Okay, so when you're breathing correctly, at least, right, and the inhalation, all that shit, and you're utilizing that intra-abdominal pressure to help facilitate a stronger breath, then I ask you, what do you do to create the tension in your abs? You know, the main thing that we should keep in mind here is that what activates your abs or flexes your abs is an exhalation. See how that affected my abs there? If you've ever tried to flex your abs in a selfie, my thing, right? P.S. If you see abs, you generally have to flex them, so there's a lot of like going on that's, you know, you're able to hide in case you're feeling bad about not having a six-pack. Anyway, so, right, flattens and pulls in, and that's transverse abdominis if, again, you're breathing correctly. So if you go to a Russian kettlebell studio, one of the first things that you're gonna learn is how to breathe correctly. Oh my God, what a concept. You gotta learn this shit. So what they have people do is take their thumbs, usually. So here's your hip bones. Put your thumbs on that like soft area between or onto the inside of your hip bones, and exhale in a way that pushes your thumbs out. That, my friends, is your transverse abdominis. That's that corset muscle that wraps all the way around that you're trying to feel, especially when you're doing a plank. And if you are doing a plank well, you do feel, right? So if that's the case, shouldn't we be exhaling when we're bracing? No, I will say not necessarily. There is a time and place for it. That inhalation can help, again, just top off your intra-abdominal pressure, but you should be able to create that kind of brace without the exhalation. Remember too, that kettlebell is different from a max effort deadlift. It's not the same thing, but also RKC does a great job of differentiating between the two and when to inhale, how to inhale, and when to exhale. So bracing for our intents and purposes is, we're talking about like the deadlift is my favorite example, because that's the one where you won't feel the weight until you're picking it up off the ground, which is why it's sketchy as fuck if you don't know what you're doing. So if you can learn how to flex your abs, then you can use that inhalation, just a little sip of air, lightheaded. So you can do this like at the top of like your deadlift, right? Flexing everything, and then see how that expanded? Outward this way. But my abdomen didn't extend, right? Or didn't push out. But if you watch from this position, everything pulled up, right? This, and actually get pulled in here, right? That's because I'm trying to move the pressure here. I'm trying to get my back to expand, right? What expands your back? Your lats. Lats, they are the most important thing you can ever focus on, think about, learn to include in lifting. They are what attach you to the bar, like I mentioned with the, literally all three lifts. squat, bench, and deadlift. Extremely important in all three. Kettlebell swing, it ain't your arms hanging onto the bell, it's your lats. And you're trying to stabilize your spine, right, while allowing your arms to move in the case of or your shoulder to pivot in the case of the kettlebell swing. And one reason why people really struggle to learn the kettlebell swing, you gotta find your lats in order to make it work for you. So the lats are an unofficial part of your core. Unofficial in that they just fucking do everything, man. They're just the daddy of them all. I already used that phrase, I blew my load early. I hated myself for it. I wanted to start again, but the lats really are the daddy of them all. So here's why they're an unofficial part of the core. If you flex your lat, it recruits your obliques. Why are your obliques important in powerlifting? They are anti-rotation muscles. We do not want to rotate in powerlifting. Definitely not, right? So we're trying to stay, again, as rigid as possible, holding this pillar as still as possible. And if I engage my lats, it can help facilitate closing this lid, which will help me not go into back extension, especially. So if you are flexing your lats too, your shoulder blades, you should feel them kind of move apart. You should have a broader upper back when you're utilizing your lats. And remember in the breathing video as well, I talked about your intercostals and how breathing into them is also really helpful, right? Because of this expansion. This is the place where you'll be able to feel bracing before anything else. Ideally, we want to get to the place where you can expand this way, right? And you even saw from that position, it's very subtle. Sometimes I forget, like, I do this for a living where I'm just like zeroed in on people's pelvises. So if you don't see it, don't worry about it. Do a session with me. I'll point it out to you and give you a complex about it. Really good at that. So if I expand my lower back, you can actually see this pulled up slightly, right? Pelvic floor, it's closing it. Oh my God, it all comes together. So how can you help feel your lats and movements better? Practice, practice, and practice. And remembering that they are not retracting, right? This makes my back narrower, right? Retraction does, which is a common way that people are cued to get into their lats. I understand why, but it fucks people over in the long run. And the other thing too is depression, right? So we don't want to be elevated, we want depression. And expanding means kind of protracted, okay? That means kind of pulling the shoulder blades apart. It's tricky and it takes practice. So the best way though to really learn to get into those suckers is deadlifting and focusing on your triceps. Why triceps? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. If you flex your triceps, it will automatically depress your scapula. Why? Because they recruit lats. So, flexing the tricep, right? That's the movement where I had a towel there and I put it away too early. Sad. Okay, so you're keeping your arms rigid and straight the whole entire time, right? In the deadlift. Perfect opportunity to utilize your triceps because your triceps extend your elbow. How do a lot of people fuck up the deadlift? They let their elbows bend, right? They don't use their triceps enough, which also makes your bicep tendon very vulnerable to rupture when you're especially doing maximal loads. So the problem isn't like an over-under, it's not utilizing your tricep. Flex your tricep, flex your lat, and flex your oblique, and then take that sip of air into the intercostals, and you're set. How do you teach yourself to maintain that position? Practice, tempos, pauses. That is the answer, my friends. My protocol before I add load to my body or any of my clients' bodies is to do usually 2 or 3 bracing specific movements to help potentiate, basically, to make you more aware of that area and to really zero in on it. So the next video in the sequence is going to show you some of my favorite movements to help at least make you feel it. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't know the feeling, then it's going to make it really hard to actually ever get there. So step 1 is even being able to recognize these things. Thanks for tuning in. I'm really excited about this topic. Can't wait to share the other shit with you. My name is Karis. Fix your shitty movement. Titty thing again. See you guys later.